Coming up, there's been a murder at Universal Studios Florida. Well, there was. It happened. It was called Murder, She Wrote Theater. There was no actually murder. It's just Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater. Attraction. It was there. It's not anymore. We're going to talk about it, despite not experiencing it ourselves. It's going to be a fun one. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. This is the Universal edition of The Diz Unplugged. This is episode 249 of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. The Diz Unplugged Universal Edition is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Universal vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. I'm your host, Craig Williams. Today, I am joined alongside by my co-host, Ryno.
Hello. And
then back on the controls, we have Corey Villascanaro.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone. So, fun episode this week. This is, I guess this is a Universal Hall of Fame episode that I didn't really think about as we went through it, but it's not the first time that we've done a throwback Universal Hall of Fame episode. I believe we did it for Back to the Future, the ride, when we did that on Back to the Future Day a couple of years ago.
Yeah, remember we had to get the newspaper at the airport and everything.
You went to get the newspaper at the airport. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was, back in 2015 we did that episode. I know we did one on Jaws in the Amity area as well, too. We haven't done Confrontation. I'll be honest, this might be the first one we've done since that Jaws and Amity one, or Back to the Future. It's been a while, but the reason why it sometimes takes a long time for these episodes is because we have to we have to do a lot of extra research and video watching on it, because while Ryno has vivid memories of some of his trips to Universal Studios Florida way back in the day, again, I did not start visiting Universal Orlando until the ripe year of 2011. So I missed out on so much history along the way, so many good attractions that had come and gone before my time. And, one that I've been wanting to talk about for the longest time actually was, in fact, the Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater that was an attraction at Universal Studios Florida way back in the day. But there was just never enough about it out there. There was a couple articles that other websites and stuff had written out there that I could kind of get an idea about it. But even then, it was like paragraphs at most, no description at all. And there was a couple incomplete videos on YouTube that kind of give me the idea of what happened. And then there was this promo video that was put out in the very early 90s, kind of showcasing everything that Universal offered. And, they showed a good amount of Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater in that little special, but still not the full thing. Just enough to get the idea that, okay, it's kind of like a behind the scenes look at how they do a lot of like the post-production on an episode of Murder, She Wrote in that sense, but still not enough. And then, one of those days I'm just sitting going on a YouTube binge looking through, and in the great year of 2020 in January, a YouTube channel with only 24 subscribers it's called Floob Drummer 132. I hope Floob is not a bad word, and I just said it multiple times. I'm just saying what the name is. If I thought that it was a bad word, then I wouldn't say it. I would just say I'll put a link in the show notes to the channel where it's uploaded. Has only 42 views. I know at least 3 of them are from me, and probably 2 of them are from Ryno, and that is an almost complete experience taking you through Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater from 1994 is when they filmed this. It is, definitely shot probably on a VHS camcorder way back in the day. Really grainy.
As opposed to what?
They would have been Super 8 still then too. And, some people might have even still been shooting on
I can't believe
older format.
It's definitely video. It's not.
Yeah, it's 100%. Well, you can tell because like literally as it starts,
it's got the play.
Yeah, it was so if it wasn't shot directly on a video camera, it was at least converted to VHS instantly. And so the video starts out with the play button on there. So before you go any further on this episode, I have to recommend going and watching this video to get an idea. And then I'm going to post a link to I mentioned that promo video that shows definitely a lot of higher quality material from this attraction. But between watching the two of those, you can actually get a really good idea about the entirety of this attraction and what it was, because it's the idea behind it is not bonkers at all. Not in the same way. Not at all for a theme park that was literally designed to show you the behind the scenes making of the movies on a real working studio lot. To show the post-production process isn't weird. Over at Disney MGM Studios across the way at the same time, you had the I'm going to screw up the name on it, but in the same idea as this, you had the Monster Sounds show.
Where? Sorry.
At MGM.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, you didn't really. Yeah, the Monster Sound show at MGM was kind of the same thing. It was a Foley exhibit, then replaced ultimately
by monsters.
It was showing like this horror movie or horror TV show. I can't remember which of the two it was, but basically you sat in the same room, the Drew Carey Theater, and that it eventually became, and they had all the Foley instruments around in front, and you would see how the sounds get inserted in with, in this case, this show, that the Monster Sound Show or Monster. I can't remember all the details of it, but it basically showcased the Foley work that happened on this. It was they helped record sound effects for a short comedic film starring Martin Short and Chevy Chase. I forgot that. I remembered Martin Short was a part of that. I forgot that Chevy Chase was in that attraction too. What a world we live in, where Chevy Chase, Martin Short together at Walt Disney World, and then across the way at Universal Orlando, you had Angela Lansbury teaming up with Tom Selleck himself.
Mm-hmm.
What a time to be alive that we were alive in, but not experiencing. So yes, that's the homework on that. Go and watch everything. And now we are going to start by talking about, for all those people who didn't bother to stop this and watch the videos, we're going to talk about the attraction, where it was, and what it was like. So the first thing to note, you might say, well, where can I go and pay tribute to Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater? Where can I leave flowers outside the building because I missed it and never got the chance to experience it? Well, the best answer is essentially Transformers, because Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater was in Soundstage 44, which was demolished to make room for Transformers The Ride 3D in 2012, and gone completely. So you can no longer say you walked through the halls of the Mystery Theater. No longer there at all. So after Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater closed, it was replaced with the Hercules and Xena also production one. I think you may have said that you remembered that one.
No,
you didn't.
No.
Okay. Did you ever experience Murder, She Wrote?
I did not experience this one.
Okay.
I don't think my mother probably would have thought it was appropriate at that age. I guess maybe.
That's fine.
It's like 10. I don't know.
Yeah. So, no, you would have been.
I would have been all right.
You would have been all right. Maybe you didn't watch Murder, She Wrote, but you would have been fine.
How dare you? I used to watch Murder, She Wrote and Diagnosis Murder.
Well,
Dick Van Dyke, Angela Lansbury happy hour.
The funny part is this literally, like, I don't know when you decided you wanted to make movies and be in production and stuff, but literally this could have been the attraction that inspired you to actually do
it was
this
not
one day.
That.
But it could have been.
It could have been,
especially because for people who don't know Ryno's taste, he does enjoy the art of post-production.
I sure do.
And this is literally looking at the post-production. So from what I could take away between the two videos, Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater started with a brief introduction from none other than Angela Lansbury herself playing Detective Fletcher. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes, Jessica
Fletcher.
It's been a while since I've caught a Murder, She Wrote episodes.
They're all on Netflix if you're interested, or they were. Let me double
See, I
check
did
that
not
really
realize
quick.
that.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Because I was like, ooh, that's the next show I'm going to launch into and watch all these episodes that I remember just flashes of when I was a kid.
I'd love to. I literally, it's been forever. Every time I do the studio tour at Universal Studios Hollywood, and they're like, "Oh, but coming up, we're hitting the town of Amity that some might out there remember as Cabot Cove from Murder, She Wrote." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I should go back and watch it to understand more and maybe see when I can get those parallels." But it's been a long hot while. But essentially, from what I could put together on this, Angela Lansbury it's not on there anymore.
OMG, it is not on here anymore. Keep going. I'll check.
Well, we'll have to petition maybe the Peacock, because I want to say.
Oh, maybe it is.
I want to say
maybe
it's going to be on that later one day. Who knows? We'll find out. But we are there because we are going to help become the producers of the show and finish up with the post-production on an episode of Murder, She Wrote Mystery. Not Mystery Theater, that was the attraction, but we're going to help with the episode of Murder, She Wrote. And the first process of that really is on the actual editing portion of the post-production process. So the editor is there along for the journey and kind of running over like what it means to actually do the editing on a show in terms of the actual cutting. And the wild part of that is, she's got all the camera monitors set up in there. It's obviously not shot live in this case. It's all shot to tape. So she's basically doing, showing off this, at the time, a state-of-the-art system of linear editing that was probably all fake and just set up there for the show, but basically showing how you would piece together an episode of a TV show, and even using the example of like, okay, we have Jessica Fletcher here and she's going to react to this, and maybe we can have her react to finding a body on the floor, or maybe we can have her react to Tom Selleck standing.
We don't have a budget for that. We don't have the time for that.
They don't, but Tom Selleck still got his face in there that way. But
it's all on Amazon Prime, just so we're
okay.
That's
so
where
it is
now.
somewhere.
Yeah, it went on Amazon. It went from Hulu to Amazon.
Okay, so
I mean, from Netflix to Amazon. Sorry.
yeah. So the cool part in this regards is like, even though back then it was like, oh, this is what was happening. Nowadays, it's kind of cool to see for people out there who might be interested in the editing process and stuff. It's really cool to see the linear editing process. So I know I had.
That's how I learned how to edit.
That's how you.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Still can hear the beeps from some of the videos I used to make. In my head. When I watch them, I'll be like, beep.
Well, and that's what like drove me nuts in watching the video of it, because she's even saying like, okay, we're going to we'll mark our time in and boop, time out and boop, which shot we're going to choose. And like, it gives me nightmares of being like, okay, because you had to set out everything precisely, like put in the times of when you wanted it with the entire time code there and in and out.
Well, and then if depending on the equipment, it could slide a frame or two.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, I have the precise cut where I need it to go. And you'd have to redo it like 3 or 4 times to get it just right. But then also when you're dealing with video, every time you take a video and then record another layer down. So if you've already started, you filmed it out there, wherever you're doing, and then you have to, so it's all on that recording.
Oh, yeah.
Then to get it on the video, that's one generation down, and then the final copy is another generation down. So you're already like 2 generations down. And
oh yeah, no, in there. I mean, there was times where I really screwed up so much that then you're just constantly copying over video cassettes.
I love the rewind when you could see through what you had just edited, where you like the whatever you had like we used to always have to reformat the tape, whatever. Yeah. So you just literally record with a black screen.
Yep.
But then if you hit rewind, you can sometimes see the images of what were underneath, and you're like, the days before.
Yeah, I am so glad that does not exist anymore. I'm glad that it's an art that I thought like, oh, well, I'll never need that again. And then oddly enough, when I was interning with a news station in 2009, like they were doing linear editing.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I learned how to non-linear, like on the computer with I think it was an Adobe, like in like 2003. Well, 2004.
In my high school,
maybe 5.
If you took video 1, you had to learn how to do linear editing.
Yeah.
And that was like knowing like, okay, this is an art form that is dying.
Yeah, they knew digital video was on the horizon.
Yeah, and you need to. But then if you took video too, that's when you got to use our nonlinear machines. And we only had 2 of those.
Yeah.
So
That's
because
funny.
of that, it's like you had to be serious if you wanted to learn how to do it, how the future was coming. And then once I got to college and we had freaking Macs everywhere, it was like, oh yeah, no, just use Final Cut. It's great.
Yeah,
Like,
right, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What have I been missing my whole life?
Also, I was like, I can only edit in order. You don't have the beginning yet, you mean? How do I start? Like, that was a big hard part to be like, they'd be like, well, you just leave a space.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but how will it not know?
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's insane how much technology has just come since I've been around. But yeah, so then to do like 4 years in college of only using Macs and then having an internship and having to go back to linear editing, it was like,
God.
okay, I'll get it. But, and I'm sure that's changed since now that they don't do, hopefully they don't do that for most news stations anymore. Cause it's been 11 years since then. So I hope technology has come far enough. But anyways, that is the first part of the process. I'm sorry that Ryno and I just did a deep dive into our past lives on this one. But the next room that you are shuffled into is where you get the closest comparison to that Monster Sound show that I was telling you about. And that's the Foley room. And for those of you who don't know what Foley work is, that's where you're adding in your sounds, the sounds that you are creating yourself to put in there. And Foley artists, was that one of your dream jobs at one point in time?
Oh, God,
too?
no. No, I
You
don't
didn't want to
think
have
so,
like the
no.
slide whistle and go, boo.
The steps in the pavement where they're like, okay, now we're on rocks. And now we're in the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yeah. Oh, and now we need to simulate a thunderstorm. Get out the big, big metal thing and go.
The scariest thing about when you like really started learning about film was learning how much, and this gives me a great appreciation of a lot of movies, how much sound is not actually captured while you're filming. Because everything, like the original Star Wars movie, and you can tell now, but like 90% of that is all done afterwards. Like none of that sound was in there, and you can tell there's a lot of dubbed work in there. But it's more than that. It's the footsteps. It's the sound of the door.
Yeah.
It's the sound of that sound of just like the brushing of your shirt.
Oh yeah, and that's why sound editing is one of the awards that you see at the Oscars. That's literally creating sounds for movies.
Yeah.
And some movies have a ton of them, some have less, but there is always going to be, if it's released in theaters, it's probably going to have someone actually creating the sounds, not worrying about capturing those live on location sounds. And like you said with dialogue, in the ideal world in making a movie, you want to capture the dialogue right on tape. And for TV shows, for sitcoms, it's like you rarely have an issue where you have to do additional dialogue in post-production because you screwed something up. Usually that's pretty spot on. Movies, it's a different case. You know?
Yeah.
Might be a windy day where they need you to replace your dialogue later, but
It's also how they reshape the story in editing. They'll dub over another dialogue. You'll see it whenever a character's back is turned or the shot changes.
But they're still
you hear
speaking.
the ADR.
Yeah, it's a nice little technique, so they don't have to spend the extra money on reshoots. But the Foley work, the art of making sounds, is what this one is specifically focused on, and it is a cute section. This takes up a good amount of this attraction, and it makes sense too because they have to pull people from the audience to help make the voices. Like, of course, in the example in the video, I saw another one where it's a different age range, but in this video that we're specifically watching, like there's one part where they're talking about voice modulation, and so they're like, okay, we need this little kid in the audience to get a roar for King Kong if we were going to do that. And so of course it's just roar, but then they apply post-production to the sound mixing, and then it turns into and they're doing the same thing. Maybe it's a woman in this one, and I have it all switched around. But like that's one of the examples that they show. I mentioned the thunderstorm in wind effect by
The big sheet
metal and shaking that all around. They do that. One of the funny moments comes in where there's they need sound effects for the shot of two people kissing in the scene, so they get a person to go in and do and it's like, of course that's not how they're doing it, but it's got to be all completely over the top like bad sounding, so that way it's everyone can just sit there and laugh and be like, oh, how do they not know how silly this all sounds? So they can't actually simulate kissing well, but it's still fun nonetheless. It's something like I would have been thrilled as a kid if I was chosen to come up and participate and be like, I'm lending my sounds to Murder, She Wrote. Like, it's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But we spent a long time talking about ADR in that last portion there, because that's actually the final portion of the step of this actual attraction, and that's where there's you're in the sound room and they pull 2 more people into this attraction so that way they can be volunteers for it with the operator running the board, and essentially they need to overdub some of the actors in the show, and they give them the lines to read and everything at it. But it's really the part of the show where you find out that it actually takes a lot of effort in order to match the sync of the actual voice, and then also not come off sounding too terrible. It's bad, but
it is a talent. To have to do this, I had to try and do this once, like with an actor, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
for one sentence, it was a nightmare.
I've never done it before myself firsthand. I've never had to do it before. I've had to sync up when we make videos and the sync goes out of control. I've had to try to match it up right, but never taken spoken dialogue and then maybe be like, oh, this one was spoken faster.
And you'll be like, how hard is it to just repeat something the exact same way? And you're like, it sounds easy in the moment, but then when you watch your mouth, you have to be like, I was just like, you know what? We're just going to use the original sound.
Yeah. So definitely a cool part of the process. And ultimately, the big payoff on this is you already, in the first portion of the attraction, you saw the cuts that were being made to the episode. And then the next portion, you saw those sound effects getting added in. And then the final portion, you saw the dialogue that you needed added in as well. Of course, the attraction has to end with you finally got that episode ready for broadcast and it's about to be put out into the world. But you get to watch what you just made first, complete with those cuts, followed by all that terrible Foley work sounding in there, and of course the terrible dialogue replacement. But it's something everyone could sit back and laugh at. And the attraction was definitely a staple of its time, considering, like we've already said, like the style of editing they showed off in the first part isn't even used anymore. But, of course, still Foley work and ADR and all that stuff, that's still around to this day. So they could easily make an attraction about it. But these attractions are hard to justify anymore because, A, people want to be in the movies, not see how they're made. And if they want to see how they're made, we also live in an age where you have special features on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K releases, as well as YouTube.
You put out featurettes. The movie does all these things. Like, it's one of those where you have such an astounding amount of access to that information that you didn't have, even just maybe like 15 years ago. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's like if you asked me what could easily help you learn how movies are made more by going to Universal back in the early 90s and experiencing the Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater, or sitting at home and putting in the Desperado DVD and watching the amazing featurettes on that literally show how he makes the movie. Yeah. And he released the book, too, that went along
Rebel
with
Without a Cause.
Yeah, so...
No, Rebel Without a Crew. I'm sorry. The play on Rebel Without a Cause. Yeah, so it's a great book, too, if you haven't read it.
Yeah, there's so much stuff out there. So these attractions aren't necessary anymore, and that's why it closed in 1996 to be replaced by Hercules and Xena Wizards of the Screen the next year after that. But an opening day attraction opened on June 7th, 1990, had 6 years. Ryno, based on what you saw,
6 years,
and yeah, I know, right? Based on what you saw in the videos of it, would you put this in the Universal Hall of Fame?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's like what we said. Like, I think I would have been interested in this when I was younger, especially if it had not been nowadays. But this does not translate to nowadays very well. It's not something. it's in that old school, like, we're gonna kind of educate you about this way, and I appreciate that's how this all started. But I think this also doesn't have repeatability.
No.
It's very once and you're done, and so it's kind of like it's a one and done. And
I mean, minus seeing what different noises they're able to make versus before, and who's doing the dialogue now. I mean, I really don't want to say this in this way as an offensive thing, but I feel like when I was visiting parks in the 90s and stuff, maybe it wasn't as noticeable, the amount of, like, especially South American guests. But now at Universal, like, anytime I go see the horror makeup show, I would say
it's most
over
likely,
half of the time I'm getting someone in the theater from South America or Central America that doesn't speak English at all, and they're the ones chosen. And it's like every single time. So, like, it's I could only imagine if if something like this existed now, with the amount of English not being the first language being spoken, how, like, terrible it could all be to go through this experience.
I think it would be terrible too, because I'm sure a lot of people are very apathetic toward this. It would be one of those attractions that people are just kind of shuffled into. Whereas I think when it opened, it was probably like, oh yeah, I watched this show. Let's go check it out. Let's learn something.
Yeah. I'm going to be on the opposite side. I'm going to definitely say it should be in the Universal Hall of Fame.
Really?
Because it's a freaking Murder, She Wrote attraction.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
that is the other half of it, where I'm just like, pat on the back to Universal for making a Murder, She Wrote attraction.
Yeah, behind the scenes, Jackie Gailey is sitting in the studio right now, not on camera and mic or anything, but, like,
she's on her typewriter writing out her own Murder, She Wrote.
I'm going to go ahead and say, if Jackie was coming to Universal in the 1990s, being a Disney fan first, and, not knowing anything about Universal, I'm sure she still would have showed up at Universal and said, "What? Murder, She Wrote? Come on, we're getting on that."
Oh, I definitely
right?
would have done the attraction, yeah.
Yeah, I know it. I knew it. She seemed like a Murder, She Wrote kind of girl. And everyone should be. Maybe not a Murder, She Wrote girl, but a Murder, She Wrote person, for sure. So I would put it in for that. But we want to hear what you have to say, too. And there's actually a nice way, because as long as I remember to do it, you would have saw at some point in this episode a pop-up that allowed you to vote on this, whether or not you want it in our little Hall of Fame that we're doing for Universal Orlando. So I don't know if it shows up on all devices, might only be desktop. Haven't messed around with it before, but I figured it's the easiest way to do it. And for all those listeners out there, I'm sorry, we're leaving you out. Maybe maybe go to YouTube and vote, or always send us stuff on social media. Do it somehow, but I think keeping it on YouTube might be the easier way, because when we used to do the voting on the boards, it was hard to get people to vote, more than like 20 people. So maybe we'll have better luck this way. But that's our look back in time. The Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater, the gem attraction of Universal Orlando from opening day through 1996, and one that I am sad I missed, but I am glad that someone finally uploaded a more complete video online so I can live Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater anytime I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you can't really get in touch with a Dreams Unlimited travel agent and try to plan a vacation back in 1994, 92, 96, any of those periods. But if you're looking to go to Universal Orlando in 2020 or beyond, you can always get help with that by going to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com and working with one of our Universal agents today. They can help you with anything you need to know about Universal Orlando, help you get the best price that you can on a Universal Orlando vacation, whether it's needing a vacation package, park tickets, hotel only, any of that. And so all the agents that work with Universal, they are specifically fans of Universal. They love the product. They know it, so they can help you out with it. So if you need any help planning your Universal Orlando vacation besides these kind of fun videos we do, head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. So that's going to do it for this show. If you need any extra information, head over to disunplug.com, home of our show notes page for this show, all the others on the Dis Unplugged podcast network. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get notified when we have new videos, and then also leave us comments and questions below, as well as hit that thumbs up. And then if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify, go ahead and leave us feedback if you can, ratings and reviews, and subscribe also if you can. So that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed this look back in time, but that will do it for this week's episode of the Dis Unplugged Universal Edition. We'll see you real soon, but until then, remember, we still haven't changed the name.